Okay, so we're going to create an assignment for students, and we want to have a rubric. So instead of attaching a separate rubric, you can now create one within Google Classroom. So you always want to make sure that you give your students a rubric for projects because they need to know what their expectations are. And then with this, you can even have kids check their work and grade themselves on the rubric. So that's a great piece for self-evaluation. So I have my assignment. I've already set it up. If you've already set up a template that you want them to use, then you can add that in here. At this point, you know how to do that. You know how to set your due date, how to set your topic, all that stuff. So the only thing I'm focusing on right now is rubric. If you need help in any of those other areas, check back with one of the other videos. All right, so down here in the right-hand corner, you'll see where it says rubric. You're going to click on that. Once you have more rubrics created, you'll be able to just pull. I already have a rubric on this kind of project. I can use it, whatever. If you have one in Google Sheets, you can import one from Google Sheets. But I've not created one for this type of project, so I'm going to click on Create Rubric. And here is where you're going to set up your categories, your scores, what you want it to range from. You're going to put in all those descriptions, and it is okay if you mess up. You can always delete it and start over. That's completely fine. So the first thing we're going to do is our title. So let's do originality. And you can have a description. You can have, I'm going to have 4 points. So for 4 points, that's going to be advanced. And I'll have a description. Product shows a large amount of original thought. Ideas are creative and inventive. So then we're going to add a level, and this is going to be for 3 points. Proficient. Add your description. Now we're going to add another level. We have 2 points. That's basic, and add your description. And then I'm going to add one more level that is below basic, and again, add your description. Okay, so that's set up for originality, but now I want to add, and you can have criterion description here if you want to talk about what you're expecting from originality. So I'm going to add criterion, and this one is going to be attractiveness. And we're going to do the same thing. Have your points, label it, give it a description. Once you have your 4 or however many for that criterion, now we're going to add a new criterion. And this one's going to be organization. And maybe organization is worth more than the 4 point. Maybe I want to do a 10 point. I want to do 10, 8, 6, and 4, or however you want to set that up. So once we get finished with this, I'll show you how when you're grading, you can give partial credit. So if you're not doing a 4, 3, 2, 1 scale, I'm going to do this one as 10. So for this one, whenever I go to grade it, maybe they are somewhere in between. They're not quite a 10 and not quite an 8. I'll show you what that looks like. So let's go ahead and set up our 4 levels for this one. Okay, so I have this one set up, and I added an extra one. So maybe you have this one typed out, and you're like, I don't really like that. I don't want to have this many, or I want to redo this one. So you're just going to click on those 3 bubbles, and it will allow you to delete that level. Okay, so now I'm going to add one more criterion because I want to cover my mechanics. And this one I'm going to do on the 10-point scale as well. And you'll see up here in the right hand corner, every time I add points or take points away, it changes that base scale. So this is going to go ahead and grade that for you. It's going to go ahead and have that total grade there for you. So it's one less thing that you have to do. Okay, let's go ahead and fill this in. Okay, so now that I have that one set up, they're all done. If there's a level that you don't like, you can go to that level and click on the 3 dots to delete it. You can also duplicate it. So let's say you want another category that's set up just like this one. So instead of creating a new one each time, you can just duplicate it and then change the information that's in there. So I have mine set up how I want it. And I have a total of 28 points. If you don't like this whole thing and you're like, I need to start completely over, you can delete the whole thing right there. Okay, so now it's set up and I'm going to save it. And now you see that this rubric is now here. You can also have it check for plagiarism. So if you turn this on, then it will check billions of sites on Google search to see if any of this work is just copied and pasted from the internet. So that's another thing. You can enable it on 3 assignments per class. But if your district has the enterprise version of G Suite, then you can check unlimited amounts of plagiarism. So for our district, we don't have the enterprise, so you can only check 3. So make sure you use that feature wisely, so you don't run out of your 3 assignments. So I'm going to turn that off because I don't need that this is just an About Me presentation. Okay, so now I'm going to assign it to my students. So now I'm in classwork and I've gone down to where this assignment is. So I see that it has been assigned to 1 student. So I'm going to click on this assignment. Now I didn't create a template or anything for Google Slides, so the student had to go in and create a Google slide and share it with me. So just keep that in mind. That part was already done by the student. And so now we're going to click here to open that presentation. It's not finished. It just has a few things that's in it. The student changed the page setup so that it was an 8.5 by 11, so it looked like a worksheet instead of being the regular Google slide 16 by 9 ratio. So, but the main thing that we're looking at is just the rubric. So I can see over here on the side where the rubric is, and I can actually open this if I want to have a big, just like a rubric looks, and I can see what it looks like here. I can collapse it to make it bigger or make it bigger. So that's just to see, and you could even, if you had a student who wasn't going to be working on the computer, you could come right here and print this off, and then you have a paper copy of this rubric. So back here for the student, I'm going to go through and say, okay, so originality, yeah, that was pretty original. And attractiveness, well, there's not a whole lot of color on this. And you can click and see what does each level mean, in case you forgot what did I say? So, organization, well, he's not quite advanced in the organization, but I feel like he's more than proficient. So this is where you're going to change this 7 to maybe an 8 or a 9, and it will change the point value as well. Same thing for mechanics. Maybe he's not quite a 10, maybe he's a 9. So I'm going to change that as well. And then I can add any private comments. Great job. And I'm going to post that comment. And then I'm going to return it. So you see that it says an 82.14. And you can change the total points if you want to. It's out of 100, so 23 out of 28 is an 82.14. Maybe I want to change that point value. Maybe you want to add some bonus points. You can change this and say, okay, well, he turned it in early, so I'm going to give him 3 extra points and just give him an 85, whatever. And then you will return it to the student, and then the student will be notified. So here's the student view. They don't actually get a notification, but they'll click on that assignment and see exactly what their rubric scored as. And if they want to go back and see what those points meant, they can do that. And they'll see, okay, I got 8, even though it was 7, but she gave me extra points, and then they can see the comment as well. And so maybe the student wants to say, thanks. And then as the teacher, back in that teacher view, you can see where the student said thanks if you scroll down. So this is how you create a rubric. This is a great way for you to create the rubric and have the students see exactly what is expected of them. And just another great way to use Google Classroom.